also, now that we have figured out, finally cracked the nut on the question of where is our administrative court?
And?
Well, I should describe this as yet another one of those great mystery stories.
Who doesn't love a good mystery?
God help me, I've had to solve a few. When you are reading certain historical records and documents, it becomes very apparent that there is supposed to be an administrative court where you can walk in as an American and simply tell the court what you want, and the court is obligated to do it for you.
Where
no questions asked. that's the big question. Is there is no court that I know of where a American claimant can walk in and say, that's my kid, give them back, and have the court just automatically roll over and give you your custody of your child back. And there's no court that I know of or knew of, let's put it that in the past tense, there's no administrative court that I knew of where an American could go and say, I'm not a municipal citizen, I want this cleared up and stop addressing me this way. Or, there's no court where an American could go in and say, this state of Ohio court has dunned me for $50,000 in back taxes and I'm the landlord. Who do they think they're addressing? I want this nullified and set aside. Okay. So there is record of such court existing, and it's pretty darn clear that court exists because in order to make their scheme legal, they had to establish that court.
Sure, there has to be remedy. Redress.
There has to be remedy. Okay, so we knew there was a court out there somewhere that was an administrative court. It was set up, and here's the key. It was set up as a trust administration court for Americans. All right. So remember what I told you after the Civil War, they came in and they created all these state trusts, like the Ohio state, and then they just didn't add the word trust to it so that people didn't get it, right? But they came in and they created all of these state trusts and they ran them as the Ohio state and the Wisconsin state. And if you listen for that, your little Shinola sensor is going, state what? Wisconsin state capital? Wisconsin state football? So it's the Wisconsin State Trust, and they're trying to avoid telling you that the Wisconsin State Trust exists, right? All right, so what else does that go with? Oh, well, the Wisconsin State Court, the Wisconsin State Troopers. See, the names in the system always have to line up. Okay, and these courts have been vacated.
Completely?
They've been vacated since the 30s.
Oh.
And every once in a great while, somebody figures it out. They go in and they operate that court. Somebody was standing, somebody who's declared themselves as an American, figures it out, operates that court, and just writes whatever they want on that court in terms of something to do. Now, it has to be a lawful action.
Okay.
But you can use that court and the state troopers as the enforcement.
Oh my gosh. Huh. That's interesting.
So, for example, the state of Washington brings a suit against what they are, claiming is their citizen, John L. Finkelmeyer, okay? And they throw the book at poor old John, and they demand that if he doesn't pay these property taxes that they say he owes them by such and such a date, according to this and this court, and in this case, they're going to sell his property right out from underneath it. Right?
Okay.
Well, the problem is that they didn't really do anything for John and his property. He didn't agree to contract with them to do anything for his property. And if he's like me, he already contacted them and questioned them about this odd situation and exactly what services are you providing me, and how much does it cost, and where's any contract that I have with you? Okay. Well, so John gets this in the mail and he says, bullshit. I don't have a contract with them. Who's going around administrating my estate for me and making these commitments for me without my knowledge or consent?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the state trust is being administered by the state of. See?
Mm-hmm.
And so you, as the presumed donor, have every right in the world to go in and operate that trust and tell the trustees, the presumed trustees, exactly what you want done.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, the power position in a trust is the donor.
Right.
Not the trustee, the donor. The donor can do whatever they want. And they can say, oh, I'm going to take all the assets out of the trust. I'm going to give it to Jill and Sandy instead of Bob and Bernie. You can do what you want if you're the donor of a trust. And this is the court where you can do it.
And so does it have to be administered by a justice?
Well, it certainly doesn't hurt if it is, but you as the donor can administer the trust directly and tell the state of courts what to do.
So what would the process be?
Just basically a description of what you want done. For example, they offer to place a lien on your property for an IRS lien, okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a federal lien. But you're the supposed donor of the trust.
Mm-hmm.
So and the assets are all in a state, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you send the federales just a brief note that you're setting aside the lien because you don't have a contract with them.
And you're an American.
Right. I can show you some examples, but you're setting aside a lien because you're the presumed donor of the trust and you don't agree to this.
Okay.
You have no contract with them and you have no federal income. So that's an end to it.
Has this been tested end to end? Oh, fantastic. Okay. I think we need to see some examples.
So too, but child custody case, case number ABCL 391-BA. The state has seized your child. You're half out of your mind.
Yeah.
Okay? You come in. So you operate your Ohio State Court, your Ohio State Superior Court. You come in as the assumed or presumed donor, and you say, I am setting aside state of Ohio case number, blah, 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 blah. And that's it.
Okay.
It's over.
And you just put your autograph byline. Does it get us an assembly seal?
It gets a court seal from your assembly.
Okay.
Ka-chunka.
Okay.
Remember all those court seals everybody had made up? Well, just make sure they have the right verbiage on them and that they have the broken circle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As long as the seal is appropriate and it's attached to a postal district, not a judicial district.
Okay. And let me see. The seal is on there, and then it is sent to the state of state.
Right. It's sent to the state of state judicial council and their commission on judicial whatever. What is it? Judicial ethics or judicial, it's a commission. Say the commission is the municipal government entity, which is going away, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you're left with is the what they call the judicial council.
Okay. And this is the administrative court for the land and soil jurisdiction. Is that correct?
No, the judicial council is the territorial government's kind of group of experts.
Okay.
The state of state judges that are supposed to be presiding over this entire carnival.
Oh.
And when you bring forward the correct case and the correct status, then it's like open sesame and they're obligated to haul wind and do it.
And do you provide paperwork? You provide evidence of your paperwork and then?
Well, it's just, it depends on what the issue is and who you're dealing with.
Okay. And then on the land and soil side, it's an administrative court. Is that correct?
These are all administrative courts because they're dealing with trust. They're not dealing with land and soil and actual people.
Okay.
These are all corporate tribunals. They're all operating in international jurisdiction. And when you operate in international jurisdiction, remember, folks, if you're standing on the soil and the land is an international jurisdiction. Okay, and what did I tell you about international jurisdiction? There are no living people in international jurisdiction. The difference is that when you are standing on your own land, you're operating as what's known as a lawful person.
Right.
One of the people with a capital P, okay? And when you're standing on the sea, on the high seas, navigable inland waterways, well, then you are acting as a legal person of the same name. Name looks exactly the same. But when you are standing there on the high seas and navigable inland waterways, you are under the jurisdiction of the British monarch. And that's how they bungled this all up and got this fraud scheme going in the first place.
Right.
But anyway, there's a lawful person, and that's who you are. But you could also act as a legal person if you had to.
Mm-hmm.
In which case you would be a protected person.
Okay. Very
But we're
interesting.
not dealing with that right now. We're just dealing as a lawful person standing on the land and saying, okay, you say I'm a donor of a presumed donor of the Alaska State Trust? Well, great. Alaska State Trust is attached to the Alaska State Superior Court in this 3rd Postal District. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm so happy. And the Alaska State Troopers are required to enforce its orders, and it's my court, and I can operate it. It's a court of record, and I can make it stick.
That's fascinating. Okay. And
what's your remedy for this nonsense?
I wonder if the troopers, well, they won't have a clue about any of this.
Yes, they will.
Oh, they will?
Oh, yes, they will.
Okay.
Some of these guys have been sitting there for 20 years just hoping and praying that we'd show up and do this.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we've got some homework to do, I can see. All right. I hope you heard that, Eric, our peacekeeping guy.
Well, and we have every right to deploy our own peacekeepers too, as enforcement.
Of course.
But as part of the remedy for this situation, they have had to establish state personnel to enforce for us when we declare ourselves as Americans and bring forward a grievance. It has to be answered, and it has to be answered instantly.
Instantly. Wow, that's powerful, Anna. Thank you so much for that. That just really gets the gears going. So I'm sure we'll have many, 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 many more questions about this.
Well, it puts an end to all of the crap that we've gone through putting out brush fires and all these horrible, horrible stories of, Aunt Minnie, who's 89 years old, getting thrown out of her house by these cretins.
Right.
And, children being stolen from their homes for no reason.
Right.
And, all of these invasive, overreaching, unconstitutional police actions, all of that. It's now in a situation where, according to their own rules and their own laws and international law and global law, and even their own Roman civil law, they're up against it.
Right. And will you be publishing an article about this?
Well, I thought I already had sent you information about this last week.
I don't think so.
And asked you to get it out to the coordinators.
I don't think I got that email.
I wonder why.
I don't know. I'll go look.
You might look up, the long list.
Yeah.
And it would have been about the middle of last week.
Okay.
When we finally said to ourselves, well, there it is, hidden in plain sight.
Okay. I will go look. Maybe it ended up in junk.
It might have.
Wow. Well, I'm glad we had this discussion. Now, speaking...
Yeah, I thought that was the biggest blockbuster that's come along for a while. Yeah,
that's pretty darn huge, if you ask me.
I thought I earned my oats.
I would say so. Wowie, wowie. Okay. Now, speaking of courts, the corporate courts are in disarray right now. We're getting field reports that they keep trying to switch jurisdictions in all kinds of cases. So you show up in court and they refuse to hear the case because they're like, well, this is not the jurisdiction for it. So we're finding things are at a stalemate. And this is also true. There's an extrajudicial process that you can use to obtain chain of title and clear title. And it's stuck in the same situation where there's no jurisdictional court available. What would you recommend?
What I just recommended.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You have your own state courts. You have your own state Supreme Court. You have your own state Superior Court. and you can knock them right out of the water and tell them what to do. They're waiting for you to do that.
Can you call a court on your own by yourself?
Why not?
Okay.
If you're a donor of the trust. See, this is all private side stuff. If you're the presumed donor, you get to tell them what to do with it.
Fantastic.
With your stuff, not with the state assembly gets to tell them what to do with the state's stuff.
Okay.
Okay. You get to tell them what to do with your stuff.
Got it. Fantastic. Wow. Very powerful. Well, I found out today from the Oregon coordinator that after the Lavoy Finicum case, all the courts in Oregon copyrighted their courts. So now only an attorney can file any cases or motions or anything like that. Have you heard anything about
That's probably the way it should have done from the first, because that also means that they can only address their own citizenry.
Got it. Okay. Fantastic. Very interesting. Okay. I've got to go and dig through my email when we're done here.
And by the way, if you get any summons from these courts, remember that big red no contract stamp I was talking about? I'm not in the state of Oregon. I'm in Oregon. Thank you.
Okay. Fantastic.
Links to Anna's articles and resources can be found in the video description box. Thank you for subscribing, liking and sharing.